I'd like to call the Tuesday, December 17th, 2024 Papillion City Council meeting to order. Ms. Barata, would you please take the roll?
Sunday, Mumgard, Gaines, Glover, Fanslaw, Klug, Stubbe, Ingberg.
Got some scouts with us tonight, and I'd like to invite them up to lead us in the pledge. Gentlemen. Let's come up here. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Do we have an affidavit of publication on file?
We do.
And a current copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the back of the council chambers. Ms. Powers, Administrator's report, please.
Thank you. Mayor Black and I are continuing to be involved with the potential legislative bills, both through United Cities and the League. United Cities started today with meeting with Sarpy County legislators. And today we had an informative meeting with Senator-elect Roundtree, who primarily represents Bellevue, but also has the eastern portion of Papillion as well. And then we will be meeting with Senator-elect Anderson on Friday. And then keep an eye out for the city's 2024 annual report, which will be delivered to all Papillion residents and water customers between Christmas and New Year's, which is next week already. So keep an eye out for that. And as always, a big thank you to our communications director, Trent Albers, for all the work he does compiling our stories and helping tell the community all the great things we've done over the past year. And then city crews are preparing for winter with last week's ice storm and the winter officially being in full swing, which is crazy. It seems like it happened so fast. I do want to take this opportunity to thank our professional public works and parks crews for the incredible work they do to keep our streets and our sidewalks safe and cleared for the public during the long winter months. We're blessed to have dedicated professionals. And then just a quick public reminder to our citizens. With the holidays approaching, I wanted to remind everyone of the vacation watch service that our police department provides. Anyone who's going to be on vacation for at least 3 days and not a vacant property, you have to have a date certain that you'll be returning. You can fill out a form online to have the PD pay a little bit of extra attention to your house while you're gone. And if you're interested in that free service, there is a link on the police department's homepage that you can access through the city's website and to enroll or sign up for that service. And then just a couple of quick reminders for city offices. We will be closing at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, December 24th. And we'll be closed all day on Wednesday, December 25th, in observation of the Christmas holiday. And we'll be closed on Wednesday, January 1st for New Year's. So I just want to wish everybody a happy holidays and a safe New Year's. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilman Ingberg, second by Councilwoman Klug. Any proponents or opponents? Council discussion? Please vote.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Next is item D1, ordinance 2039, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. Is there a council member that will introduce? Introduced by Councilman Glover. Item D2, ordinance 2041, an ordinance to amend section 9-26, 9-28 through 9-32, and chapter 179 of the Papillion Municipal Code to coincide with current practice of the tree board. Is there a council member that will introduce? Introduced by Councilwoman Klug. Item D3, ordinance 2042, an ordinance to approve a change of zone from AG agricultural to R4 multifamily residential and R4 PUD multifamily residential with a specific planned unit development overlay for the property legally described as a tract of land located in part of the southwest quarter of the northwest quarter, along with all of the southeast quarter of the northwest quarter, excluding any right-of-way dedicated for South 72nd Street, Stony Point Drive, and Ponderosa Drive, all located in Section 1, Township 13 North, Range 12 east of the 6 p.m., Sarpy County, Nebraska, generally located southeast of 72nd Street and Schramm Road. The applicant's Ponderosa 72 Development, LLC, Ponderosa Place. Is there a council member to introduce? Introduced by Councilman Fanslow. Item D4, ordinance 2044, an ordinance to amend Papillion Municipal Code Section 5128, to update and harmonize with amendments to Nebraska Revised Statute 49-1499.03 regarding general conflicts of interest of public officials, public employees. Is there a councilman will introduce? Introduced by Councilman Sunday. F1, Ordinance 2036, an ordinance to amend Section 20520, Funeral Services of Article 3, Use Types, Table 20538, Permitted Uses by Zoning District of Article 4, Zoning District Regulations, and Section 205-202, Commercial Uses of Article 28, Supplemental Use Regulations of Chapter 205 Zoning, having to do with regulations for funeral services. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 2036? Mr. Mumgard.
I'm going to make a motion to lay this ordinance 2036 over to the second meeting in January.
Which would be January 21st, I believe.
Yeah, I have proposed an amendment that everybody has seen. I've had discussions with other council members, and I just want to give more time to modify my amendment and see if I can come to some time when there's a majority in favor of one way or the other.
So motion to table until second meeting, January 21st. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Ingberg. Any proponents or opponents on the motion to table? Council discussion? Please vote. A yes vote will table it.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes, so it's tabled until January 21st. Item F2, Ordinance 2037, an ordinance to amend Article 27, Floodplain Floodway Overlay District of Chapter 205 Zoning, having to do with floodplain and floodway regulations, and Article 2, Development Definitions, Floodplain Floodway Overlay District Regulations Update. So motion to approve Resolution Ordinance 2037? Motion by Councilman Fanslow, second by Councilman Glover. Any discussion? Mr. Mumgard. Okay. Please vote.
Six yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item F3, Resolution R240212, a resolution to approve a real estate sale contract and assumption of the commercial lease agreement for property located at 103 East 4th Street. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R240212? Motion by Councilman Sunday. Second by Councilman Klug. Any proponents or opponents? Seeing none, council discussion? Please vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item F4, Resolution R240213, a public hearing and a vote. A resolution to approve a Class I liquor license for Cat Cow Yoga LLC, doing business as Cat Cow Yoga, 9831 South 96th Street, Suite 105, and a manager application for Shelby Bachman. It's a public hearing. I'll open it. Do we have any proponents? Welcome.
Joe Chase, 902 Mackenzie Drive. I manage Lux Apartments and commercial space for the Papillion family. This is another tenant that is coming into our building, can provide another community service I'm kind of looking forward to. It's different. There's nothing like that in Papillion right now with yoga. So we're excited to have them. They're a proven commodity because they actually own and operate the popcorn business next door and have been there for, well, since we opened, and they were in Papillion for a long time. It's a Papillion family, and they're good business people. They're really sharp and they're hardworking, so we want to help them succeed, and this is part of their business plan to help them succeed. So let me know if I can help answer any questions. Thank you.
I just want to point out that at our last meeting, I think it was, we had a beauty shop coming in and asking for a liquor license. Now we have a yoga shop coming in and asking for a liquor license. That seems to be the trend, that when you go to these places in Papillion, you get to enjoy a drink. And I'm totally for it. I think it's a great idea.
You look better in the mirror with one cocktail.
Any other proponents or opponents? Close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R240123? Motion by Councilman Ingberg, second by Councilman Glover. Any discussion? Please vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. F5, Resolution R240214, a resolution to approve the third amendment to the Sumter Crossing subdivision agreement. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R240214? Motion by Councilman Mungbergen. Second by Councilman Fanslow. Any proponents or opponents? Council discussion? Please vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. F6, Resolution R240215, a resolution to approve 2025 trash hauling permits. If there's no objection, we'll handle them all as one motion unless a council member wants to pull one. A is Abe's Trash Service, B is Gretna Sanitation, C is Waste Connections of Nebraska doing business as Papillion Sanitation, D is Waste Management of Nebraska, E is Waste Services of Nebraska. I would ask, are all the applicants here? Is Abe's here? Okay. Gretna? Okay. Waste Connections? Okay. Waste Management? Okay. And Waste Services? All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R240215? Motion by Councilwoman Klug. Second by Councilman Glover. Proponents or opponents? Council discussion. Please vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Thanks for being here. Item F7, Resolution R240216, a public hearing and a vote. We got a number of related items, and this is the start of them. A resolution to approve the Second Amendment to Oak Leaf Subdivision Agreement. It's a public hearing. I'll open it. Proponents, and I'll note that any comments, we'll just carry them forward to all the related items, unless you want to come up again.
I think it's probably best to explain kind of all of them at once, and then if you have other questions as we go, please ask them. So Larry Jobin, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Larry Jobin, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of the developer Oak Leaf Development LLC. With me tonight is Gene Graves of Oak Leaf Development LLC, also Joe Foley of Foley Shaw, the consulting engineers in this particular project. So what this first item is, item 7, is Randy Sump retained personal residence and then some other property within the Oak Leaf development. He was made part of the original subdivision agreement. He now wants to be out of the subdivision agreement, not sign it. I didn't really think in the beginning he was a necessary party necessarily, but there were some items that he had to agree to, which were taken care of in item 8. So that's why he was included in the original subdivision agreement. So between the city staff, Mr. Sump, and Oak Leaf Development LLC, we're all in agreement as to all of these items moving forward, so there's no disagreement amongst staff, Oak Leaf Development LLC, or Mr. Sump. So what this first item 7 does is it removes Randy Sump as a party to the subdivision agreement, and then it also removes phases 4 and 5 of Oak Leaf, because Mr. Sump's now going to retain that area. And so this first item, that's what that accomplishes. And then it also provides for future reimbursements to the Oak Leaf SID when phases 4 and 5 may be developed by either Mr. Sump or someone that Mr. Sump sells to. So that's what that item is for. Then item 8 is a Sump development agreement. I don't represent Randy, but essentially there were some conditions in the original subdivision agreement that were approved that required Mr. Sump to connect to the sanitary sewer once our sanitary sewer was installed, connect to the water system once our water system was installed and was available to his property, his residence. And the third was to connect to our public street systems and remove a driveway out on 72nd Street. So we took those provisions that were in the original subdivision agreement and really put them in a separate development agreement, which I thought maybe was appropriate way back when, but it just didn't occur that way. Fine, we're all in agreement with that as well between staff, Mr. Sump, and Oak Leaf Development. So that's that. And then we get to item 9, which is the final plat that you actually have already approved. And then also item 10, which is the amendment to the third amendment to the subdivision agreement, which was originally the second amendment to the subdivision agreement with the final plat that was approved by this council already. But Mr. Sump was not agreeable to sign the second amendment to the subdivision agreement, so we couldn't get the plat released. So that's what sort of put all this into motion, and that's why we had to then amend the subdivision agreement to remove Mr. Sump, remove phases 4 and 5, take the provisions in the original subdivision agreement that related to Mr. Sump's property that he retained, put them in a separate development agreement, and then have a now third amendment that was originally the second amendment and the final plat that was all approved by this council some time ago, but we couldn't release the plat. So I call this sort of a housekeeping set of items on the agenda between 7 and 10, kind of a convoluted thing. Again, between staff, Mr. Sump, Oakleaf Development LLC, everything's agreeable, everything's fine, no issues. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Appreciate it. Mr. Mungard.
Okay, I think I understand generally what you're talking about. But, okay, and as I understand the map, phase 4 and 5 was largely, is the area adjacent to the housing, to 2 houses that are there?
It's between Mr. Sump's residence that he constructed and another piece of property that he retained originally, and then phase 4, which is adjacent to or I should say phase 4, I think, which is adjacent to, God, what phase is that? I don't have it in
That's
front of me.
mostly adjacent to 72nd Street there, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's what he's retaining, so that's
Yeah.
4 and 5.
That's
Then the other phases are owned by somebody else, and that will be included in the Oakleaf subdivision, which are south of the final plat that you're approving today. So I don't know if you see that on your map. I can probably pull it up, and if,
Well, okay, I think I understand that. I guess my concern would be, what does all this mean to the continued development of phases 1 to 3? I've driven by that many times, and there's development going on there.
absolutely.
What's this going to mean?
It doesn't mean anything. Actually, it means that it's going to go forward full steam ahead with housing being constructed immediately on the approved final plat that you have today as item 9 and 10. So, no, it's a good thing. So this really just separates, phases 4 and 5 from the balance of the original Oakleaf subdivision, and it allows us to move forward with development as quickly as possible to get valuation on the development. So it's a good thing.
What happens to that area that would be phase 4 and 5 as you develop 1 to 3?
That will be developed at a separate time. It'll be a preliminary plat that'll come back before Planning Commission and this council, and then a final plat that will go back to Planning Commission and this council. But you have to remember that a lot of the infrastructure is already set by the Oakleaf development, so it's going to have to connect and it's going to have to be integrated somehow. But that's really for another day when someone comes in to develop 4 and 5. They'll just have to coordinate it. It'll be like any other development coming in adjacent to another development. They'll have to work with staff, and they'll have to come to Planning Commission on a preliminary plat, council a preliminary plat, final plat to Planning Commission, final plat to council with the subdivision agreement.
Well,
So
what do we anticipate in the meantime? Is it just going to stay vacant, farmland?
it'll
What do we
just
think?
be farm ground, unplatted, and controlled by Randy Sump. So I mean, it's his decision. We're just moving on forward with this proposed development, which is a good thing, because we have I can't remember, there's a number of lots actually that are under contract right now that will be sold immediately after this plat gets recorded. So this whole process is kind of delayed. A number of houses being constructed already. So I think this first kind of came about in June, and here we are in December, finally resolving everything to the satisfaction, I think, of the city staff, us, and some.
We would anticipate that the timeline for development of 1 to 3 remains the same.
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, it speeds up.
Thank you, Mr. Ingberg.
Well, I'm certainly not an attorney, as Mr. Gilman knows, but would it be safe to just summarize it this way? It's a divorce between 2 partners. End of story.
Well, they were never really partners. It was all part of an integrated development, only in the sense that there was an approved preliminary plat of the entirety, and now we're just really separating the lots that were retained by Randy, or the property that was retained by Randy, and that property that was purchased by Oakleaf Development or Mr. Graves. So all it is separating that. But even though you were doing that, so it really wasn't a divorce because they were never partners. It's really just separating. They're going their own ways as far as the integrated development, but in reality, it's going to have to be integrated to some degree because the public improvements are stalled already with the final plat of Oakleaf. So I call it more of a housekeeping matter than a divorce. How about that?
I appreciate you taking the time to add additional verbiage to the explanation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other proponents or opponents? I'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve resolution R240216? Motion by Councilman Mumgard. Second by Councilwoman Klug. Council discussion. Mr. Sunday. The other one. Motion by Councilman Mumgard, second by Councilwoman Klug. Any council discussion? I think I got it wrong again. They got it right for the minutes. I'll say the bald. Any council discussion? Please vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
I'm getting Alzheimer's. Item F8, Resolution R240217, a resolution to approve the SUMP development agreement. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R240217? Motion by Mr. Mumgard. Second by Mr. Fanslow. Proponents or opponents? Council discussion? Please vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. F9, Resolution R240218, a resolution to approve a final plat for the property legally described as a replat of lots 3 through 234, lots 338 to 362, lots 364 to 367, and Outlot B, Oakleaf, generally located on the southeast corner of South 72nd Street and Capehart Road. Applicants Oakleaf Development LLC, Oakleaf Replat 1. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R240216? 0218 again, I'm sorry. Haven't had enough coffee. Motion by Councilwoman Klug. Second by Councilman Glover. Proponents or opponents? Council discussion. Please vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. F10, Resolution R240219, a public hearing and a vote. Resolution to approve the third amendment to the Oakleaf subdivision agreements. Public hearing, I'll open it. Any other proponents or opponents? Close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R240219? Motion by Councilman Fanslow. Second by Councilman Sunday. Any discussion? Please vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Thank you. F11, Resolution R240220, a resolution to approve the request to Sarpy County cede and transfer jurisdiction over the territory depicted within Exhibit A to the City of Papillion pursuant to Nebraska Revised Statute 13327. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R240220? Motion by Councilman Glover. Second by Councilman Fanslow. Any proponents or opponents? This one's a little unusual, so I do want to explain it. We're going to see a couple of others. And more for education of the public. So Papillion is a city of the first class. State legislature gives us control of 2 miles beyond our city limits for zoning purposes. And if you just take 2 miles and create an arc, you end up with arcs that go through people's property. So you may have a piece of property that's in 2 different jurisdictions. And sometimes those arcs are a little odd to figure out. But state law does allow the opportunity for one jurisdiction to cede or transfer jurisdiction from one to the other within that area. And what we're doing, and you're going to see a series of these if these get approved, we're just looking at our extremes. How do we square those off? And so the first one we're starting with is down by 84th Street in Platteview, down by the sheriff's station. In anticipation, in the future, when the county improves Platteview Road, probably one of the first areas they're going to tackle is that odd intersection down there. And so once that gets developed, we're anticipating there might be some development. So that's the first one. If you look at the exhibit, we're squaring that off. But each jurisdiction just doesn't want to give up territory. So there's a land transfer involved. It's not equitable, and the county's not asking for it to be, but there needs to be a little bit of a transfer. So if you go out to the the western boundary, you see a little piece we're giving up, and that's squaring off as well. So we're picking up a lot more than than we're giving up, but it's all in that squaring up of the territories. We're starting with this one because it only involves Sarpy County, and they very much agree to this. But then what we're going to do is start conversations with the City of Bellevue, City of Springfield, and City of Gretna. And where we come together, we're also going to look. We've already got our boundary agreements. Let's square off the territories in those areas. So we think it'll all be friendly, but we figured instead of doing it all at once with 5 jurisdictions, let's start it with one, and that's the county request. Any other council discussion? Mr. Mumgard.
Okay, I just wanted to have a comment about the area out west where we're ceding to Sarpy County. I fully understand the desire to square off, as you say. I'm concerned about that one. I'm going to vote for this because I don't have any problem ceding it off to the county at this point. But I will point out that is the area where someday there will be a major interchange onto I-80. We went through this with Gretna and trying to figure out where our line would be, and we split that area a bit with Gretna. I wasn't entirely pleased with how much of the area we gave over to Gretna, that we gave away, I guess, to Gretna. Here we are again, moving back from completely controlling this area that will be a major interchange at some point in the future. I suspect I won't be around to see it, to go through it, but the citizens of Papillion, I think, deserve to enjoy the benefit of deciding how that interchange should develop. So fine, let's cede it over to the county and you can have your nice squaring lines. But as you've indicated, there are other steps that need to be taken in the future, and I think we need to be very careful and cautious about doing that in any way, giving up this area completely to the city of Gretna. I think we need to, for the benefit of the citizens of Papillion, sometime in the next 50, 60 years, keeping this.
And we're starting that discussion immediately. And what we're actually going to request is going all the way out to our boundary agreement so we do gain total control of that. And the indications are so far, I don't think it'll be controversial, but we're going to spark that discussion. It's when we get within about, I think it's a half a mile of another city's jurisdiction is when we need their approval. So as we get in that area, we got to work with both Gretna and Springfield. But because we have the existing boundary agreements, we're not anticipating there will be any issues that actually bring clarity to some things, but we'll see. So, any other discussion? Mr. Fanslow.
Yeah, I intend to vote for this as well. I have a little bit of experience in this area. It makes it a lot easier as developments come along. It's going to probably be a while before any developments come here, but when you have the ARCs and somebody wants to develop land, then you're starting to deal with 2 different jurisdictions, 2 different permitting processes. So I think it makes sense, and I'll be voting for this.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Please vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Last regular agenda item, F12, Resolution R240221, a resolution to approve and direct the dissolution and unwinding of the sale of Lot 13, Papillion Business and Technology Park to Neighborhood Community Pantry. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R240221? Motion by Councilman Kloop. Second by Councilman Sunday. Any proponents or opponents? I will note that Andrea Powers, the president of Neighborhood, and Bill Conley and Joe Chase, who are on the board, are here if there's any questions. But I told them they didn't have to come up and speak unless they want to. But any proponents or opponents? Council discussion? Just again, for the public, it's an unusual item. We previously had an agreement to sell, not an agreement, we did. We sold land to the Neighborhood Community Pantry. They're already in the tech park, but with their expansion and needing to provide more services, they'd put a plan together several years ago to build a new facility, and they came to the city and we sold them land so they could build that. And they were working on that, and then just recently they called the city and said, we have an unexpected opportunity, and it was to buy an existing commercial building in that same general area right on 72nd that would really service their needs. And to buy existing versus building new, one, it sped up the process of getting in. If they were going to build new, they had to relocate temporarily for a period, still raise the money and build a building. So it's probably shaving, I don't know, 2 years off of their process and saving them a couple of $1 million. And they're still staying in Papillion. So we agreed it makes a lot of sense. We'd be happy to unwind it and take it back. They are covering all the costs related to it. We did a full accounting of what we spent on the sale, and they more than have covered that. If you do the accounting, it shows the city has a little bit of a loss, but we replatted that whole technology park when we did this, so we benefited, and so we figured we write off a little bit of the loss. We benefited that much in the replat. So very cooperatively, we believe both parties are breaking even, and they're able to get in sooner and save money. So. Any other council discussion? Mr. Fanslow.
My light's on. Yeah, my light's on. Maybe this is a question for Travis. I think we maybe talked about this, but remind me. Their new maybe you weren't part of the conversation, but the new location that they've chosen, it speeds up the process for them because they don't have to build new, but tell me about that entitlement process for their new location, if you would.
Sure. The property that they're currently looking at is limited commercial, so it's a permitted use by right. So they would be able to work with the city building department, planning department on any renovation permits or additions, and we've already had some early discussions with them as well.
Any other council discussion? Please vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion approved. Thanks for the service you provided to Sarpy County. It's critical. It's all the regular agenda items. No committees have met. Do we have any comments from the floor? Anybody want to speak? Yes, go ahead and come up. When you come up, anybody that wants to come up, state your name and address for the record, and we got 5 minutes. Welcome.
So good evening. My name's Dave Tuchek, and very keenly aware about the citizens of Papillion, but I come to you as a member of North Shore, which is an unincorporated Sarpy County, but it is governed, I guess, by permits issued by the city. And in this week, I think the council's probably heard about some improvements that the city approved in our neighborhood that I don't think would meet with the city's approval. Certainly doesn't meet with the residents. Just kind of a week in the life of a North Shore resident. Over the last week, Allo came in, broke 4 CenturyLink lines without reporting it, took out an OPPD line, and took down about 1/3 of the neighborhood. And in discussion with Mr. Kleffner, apparently was not open or transparent about that. CenturyLink came in behind them and took out a fair amount of the wire or fiber that Allo just put in. And so a couple members from the neighborhood here, I think, would ask for kind of an update from the city's perspective on possible action the city might take in enforcing some standards about allowing or disallowing crews that are incompetent, my word, but based on the evidence, I don't think there'd be many who would argue about just kind of a way forward. There's just the simple damage issue, driving up and down 124th Avenue. There are fiber rolls scattered about. There's pretzel-like conduit left in the streets. There are holes up and down folks' backyards with still no update as to when those holes will be filled. So, at least and I can't speak for the others, but I think they would probably appreciate some feedback from the council, in particular, the director, of what a way ahead might be for this, particularly since in looking at the city's website, I understand the city might be interested in driving down competition by introducing more providers, but I can probably tell you right now there will be nobody in North Shore who enters into an agreement with Allo, at least in the next year or so. So I don't see competition as being a driver for allowing Great Plains, who I understand has a permit as well, and is standing in line to come into our neighborhood again. So I just offer that to the council for response. Thank you.
Appreciate it, and a little bit for the public, but a little bit to make sure we stay compliant with Open Meetings Act that the state keeps us under. Anybody can come up and speak, give 5 minutes on any topic, but where the state controls us from an Open Meetings Act is if we don't have a published agenda item that we notified the public about, we can't get into an active dialogue, but anybody can come up and speak. So I'll allow that. Anybody can come up and do their 5 minutes and speak. And then at the end of that, because I don't think it's appropriate that staff responds in that dialogue under the Open Meetings Act, what I will offer is if any residents have a concern on a common topic that's been during public comments, we'll take one of our conference rooms and anybody can go in there. I think Allo's here as well if they want to go in, and we can have Public Works and the city deputy city administrator go in and help facilitate a discussion and get any of the information available. Any other residents that want to speak from public comments? Welcome. And again, 5 minutes, and if you state your name and address for the record.
Yep. Brian Sievertson, 10506 South 123rd Circle. I'm here representing North Shore as a HOA president and as a SID 292 board member. We've been dealing with a lot of complaints over the last week. They started striking, I think David mentioned 4. I was aware of 3, a 48 count, a 24 count, and a 4 count that they struck early last week. Some residents finally started getting back online today. Many residents work from home. They're also complaining about getting online, kids, finals week, things of that nature. So just bad timing, number one. Number two, I don't think the communication has been what it was put out to be. Residents supposed to be getting flags in their yard. Residents complaining that hasn't been happening. Flags in the yard, letting them know that construction is be starting within a couple days. There's just been, I think there's been at least 4, if not more, incidents with the power. And so basically what we're asking is we need a solution moving forward. We certainly don't want to delay the project, but we want it to be completed in a way that's going to not affect the residents as it has this last week. We still have several residents that are on day 9 without their internet service. We were lucky as a subdivision to, when we were built in 2015, to have fiber by CenturyLink and fiber by Cox. So we've introduced a third, and then also what our concern is moving forward with all the other fiber companies coming in. It's starting to kind of affect the aesthetics of the neighborhood, because not only are these utilities being placed within the easements, but they're also being put in public right-of-way, so right on, people's front yards, big vaults of, 3 foot by 4 foot, 3 foot by 5 feet. And if we continue to allow additional utility providers, there's going to be more service that's going to be affected. It's, more vaults being put in, and, what we ask is how much competition do we really need? We're satisfied with what we're at here, but as far as moving forward, we really request assistance from the city on a plan, whether it's with this contractor or a different contractor, to complete the work in a timely manner, and to, from my understanding, 4 hits within a week is substandard work. So we would request some guidance with Allo on that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And one other thing, if there is a meeting afterwards, we could have up to 3 council members in there too, if somebody's interested in that as well. Just make sure that if you go in that we don't have 4, because we don't want to get into the quorum and open meetings violations. Any other residents, comments? Welcome.
Hi, Derek Bowen, also North Shore. I'm not going to rehash what they've already said, just in a day in life for us. Today was day 8 without internet service. Allo came in, they cut 3 lines, cut the power. CenturyLink tried to come in, they tried to fix it. During the day they tried to fix it, Allo cut a power line. OPPD, I think, told them, hey, cease and desist so we can get the power back up. Got the power back up. What I really wanted to highlight is that I spoke to an Allo contractor and said, hey, what happened, right? You guys cut lines, what happened? So, hey, the lines were not marked properly. Right at the back of my yard is where one of our posts lie, and it was clearly marked, and they put a post right over it, and they cut the fiber, and they did not report it, right? That's a problem. That's substandard work. It's incompetence. I know Allo hires out contractors to go ahead and do that, but they're not aware of what's going on. The other issue, I had a bunch of our neighbors say, hey, if you're going to the meeting tonight, address a lot of damage to landscaping. Allo said they'd fix it. There's been no communication. In their first phase of laying the fiber down, they've come in. I've got one specific example. They did a lot of landscaping around their posts. Allo came in, they tore it up. They left a piece of equipment, a ditch witch, a tractor type of equipment, there for multiple days, leaking oil. They came back in, they threw sod down and said, we're good to go. Obviously, oil-soaked soil is not going to take to sod, right? So the grass did not grow. So far, a couple of residents reported a couple $1,000s in damages that they've had to repair because it's just too much trouble to go back to Allo and have them go ahead and fix stuff. Again, I'm interested in a meeting afterwards. I'm not going to go into any further details in that, but there's a process that's broken, and we probably need to get it fixed.
Thank you. Any other comments? Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, members of the Papillion community, thank you for allowing us to speak here tonight on behalf of the public. I just wanted to offer
Can you give your name and address for
my
the
name
record?
is Ed Jarrett, Senior Manager of Plant Operations at Allo Communications. I live in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I'm here to represent Allo and Bauer Underground in Papillion. I just want to express my extreme apologies for you guys and the disruption to the community, to your properties, and I definitely want to meet with you guys after if we can, and then offer up any resolution that we can to get this resolved as quick as possible and to carry out the project here and get the restoration process going. Again, it's against our core values of any disruptions for a lengthy part of time, and some of the issues that have happened through damages, mostly preventative. We do have a good tracking record, so we would like to understand the issues that weren't reported, and so that way we can grade our contractors. But again, I would like to meet with you guys afterwards if you guys have the time, and then see what resolutions we can have, and then we do have some metrics and things like that if the council members would like that. But again, I just want to offer up our time to meet with the constituents here. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Any other comments from the floor? Comments from council?
I would just like to respectfully disagree with the good track record part that we just heard from the last speaker. We all know the problems we've had with Allo in the past and the damage they've done to residents' properties and being lax and slow in addressing the problem. Months and months and months before problems get resolved. And I think this is a serious situation, and I don't know, maybe we need to pull their permit if they can't shape up. I'm serious. That's all I got.
Any other council comments? How many people want to stay for a meeting? Just raise your hand so I can get an idea. Okay, any council members? And then Mr. There's a conference room on the second floor. So as you go down the stairs and take a right, there's a conference room back there. That's where we'll meet as soon as we adjourn. And Mr. Sturzman, Mr. Kleffner will join as well. And if there needs to be facilitation, I'll look for Mr. Sturzman to do that. He's got a master's degree in conflict resolution and negotiation. Seriously, so he's a great guy for it. But second floor conference room, there should be enough room to accommodate a meeting down there. And I did get clarification. The quorum of the council, it's of the whole council, so we can actually have 4 council members in that meeting if you so desire, so just don't go over 5. Any other council comments in general? Updates from last couple of weeks. The Sarpy Chamber Governance Group meets. Mainly what they're looking at is just legislation from a business perspective. And so they're just watching the legislature, just getting ready to go into session. The League of Municipalities Executive Board met. Again, I got elected the Executive Board, and so I'll be involved with legislation statewide from the League perspective. And then the United Cities met as well regarding legislation. So if any council member has any legislation that interests them, make sure we're aware of that, because we've got about 3 different spots to influence that now. And when the legislature goes into session early January, it's the beginning of the next 2-year cycle. And so no bills are carried over from the previous session. They're starting fresh. And the first 10 days is bill introduction. So it'll be moving fast. We won't know a lot until the 10th day of the legislative session. And then we should have an idea of what's being introduced and what it's going to look like. So just keep us aware if there's anything of interest for you. And then we have a board of appointed officials, the LCRA, and it's a newer board, and it's only met 3 times in about 5 years, but it did meet tonight, and that's a critical board in regards to downtown redevelopment and the area behind Public Works, and they actually approved an amendment to a redevelopment plan with Urban Waters, who did the 132nd and Lincoln project. And so that'll be going forward to the Planning Commission for recommendation. And then at the same time, we do have a purchase agreement from that developer for the land behind Public Works building. That'll be coming to the council in January. And so if that purchase agreement gets approved and the Planning Commission gets approved, the ball is rolling on that redevelopment project. So the next 4 to 6 weeks will be really important for downtown redevelopment. So for the council members that are on the LCRA, thank you for meeting early with that. Any other council comments? Do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Councilman Glover. Second by Councilman Gluck. Please vote. Mr. Sunday, Mr. Mumgard. Please vote.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
We are adjourned.